Hey everyone, this is Adam Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Today we are going to take a look at one of the major aspects that's forming as the week progresses into the weekend, which is the square between Mars and Uranus. Mars is currently culminating in the sign of Leo, Uranus culminating in the sign of Taurus, and the two planets will be square to one another at the end of the week, but they're just a few degrees away from each other right now. Once they're within about 3 degrees, you're going to start noticing it and experiencing it. So I feel like this is a good one to start the week with, since it really is one of the major aspects that the week is building toward. In addition, obviously, to the Jupiter-Saturn square, which we will also be talking about this week quite a bit. So anyway, that is our agenda for today. I'm going to give you 5 things to watch for given the square between these two planets, with a little sprinkling of the Leo and Taurus dynamics worked in. So before we get into it, as always, remember to like and subscribe. It is really my hope that this channel will be a place for your daily spiritual practice. If astrology is part of that practice, then it's my hope that this will be like a home compatible for that spiritual growth. Anyway, if you listen regularly and you're not yet subscribed, it really does help us grow tremendously. And you can find transcripts of any of these daily talks on the website, which is nightlightastrology.com. A couple of things coming up. If you go to the events page, click on the in-person events. We're having a summer solstice gathering on June 21st in Minneapolis here. It's free to attend, just RSVP so that we know you're coming. Would love to see you there for an evening of meditation and reflection on the summer solstice. If you also go to the speaker series page, you'll see this coming weekend we have a talk with Krista Hamilton on the Decans. That's free to attend. All these free events are facilitated thanks to your generosity in supporting the channel and through our Kickstarter every year. Attend that talk live or get the recording afterward. Either way, it's free to register. You can do so there on the speaker series page. I have a talk coming up that I've just finished writing. I'm really excited about it. It is called Uranus and Gemini, Trine Pluto and Aquarius When New Objects Appear in the Sky. In this talk, I'm going to be exploring the major archetypal dynamics of the Uranus-Pluto trine, which is starting this summer. So if you can't attend that talk live, you get the link to attend live when you register, but the recording as well afterward if you can't. Next thing, of course, we have just about 2 weeks left before our first year course in ancient astrology begins again on June 22nd. There's an informational video at the end of today's content tagged on. It's about 12 minutes long. Takes you through everything you need to know about the program. Again, it starts June 22nd. At the bottom of the page, in addition to finding everything you need to know about the course on this page, you'll also find the enrollment options. And be sure to check out the need-based tuition if you are someone who could benefit from working within a sliding scale because you have a fixed or limited income. We want to make sure that people aren't priced out of studying a sacred topic. That accessibility is important to us. So please do take advantage of that. Register now. We've got just a few weeks until classes start. It's a great election to start under with the Uranus-Pluto trine. Just an amazing connective aspect for the study of things like astrology. So I really do feel that the Pluto entrance into Aquarius last year, as well as the Pluto-Uranus dynamic, making for some really good elections for studying astrology under deepening that connection in a structured communal environment. So if you resonate with my work on the channel, this is my absolute heart's work. These programs are what I have spent more time developing and cultivating than really anything else in my career, maybe aside from my client practice. So if you enjoy this, I think you'll love that too. All right. I'm also going to be doing a horary demo this week. At the end of one of the day's contents, I'm going to show you what horary astrology is. And if you already have a background in traditional astrology and want to study horary with us, that also starts this month of June. So I'll tell you more about that. I think it's going to be tomorrow, but one of these days this week, I'll be doing that. All right. So on that note, let us turn our attention to the real-time clock so that we can take a look at this Mars-Uranus dynamic before breaking down 5 things to watch for. So you will notice that here we are on Tuesday, June 10th, and Mars is at 26 degrees of Leo, and it is squaring Uranus at 28 degrees of Taurus. They're just about 2.5 degrees apart right now. As soon as those two planets are within 3 degrees, which really started yesterday, you could say that their symbolism can be seen, felt, observed, experienced. And that means that for the rest of this week, we're really in the zone of their contact. That's important. If we take it forward a day, they're about 2 degrees apart. Take it forward another day to Thursday, June 12th, they're about 1.5 degrees apart. Get them to Friday, they're 1 degree apart, and so on like this. So we're seeing them, about only 0.5 degree apart by Saturday. And then on Sunday, their exact square will occur. That's occurring at the same time, exactly on Sunday, that Jupiter is also squaring Saturn. So there's really 2 parts of our work this week as students of astrology, as people who work with these planetary transits in our day-to-day lives. The first is the Mars-Uranus dynamic, and the second is the Jupiter-Saturn. And you could flip-flop them. Probably Jupiter-Saturn has more overarching, long narrative importance than a quick-moving Mars-Uranus dynamic. But the fact that Mars-Uranus is happening at the exact same time as the Jupiter-Saturn dynamic is something that we're going to try to unpack this week. I want to start unpacking that today by simply looking at Mars-Uranus in a vacuum. Then we'll try to contextualize it alongside of Jupiter-Saturn as the week goes on. So that's kind of our task for today. I'm going to give you now, I'm going to give you 5 things to watch for. Just forgot one thing there. So I'm going to give you 5 things to watch for given Mars in Leo squaring Uranus and Taurus. Now, most of the things on this list could be applicable to any dynamic between Mars and Uranus, especially the hard aspects, like a square, conjunction, or an opposition. The square is of the nature of Mars, a little bit more intense, and so we kind of keep that in mind. And then some of these 5 points that I have today will include subtle aspects of the signs that the 2 planets are in, Leo for Mars and Taurus for Uranus. So let's go ahead and now sort of take a look at these. Number 1, a change of plans. I'm using this phrase to loosely denote the tendency that Uranus has toward disruptiveness. Mars is also a god of more sudden and impulsive activities. If you think about that moment when you're driving and you suddenly punch the gas, it's a very Mars-like moment. Anything that's sudden, quick, fast, filled with a sort of muscularity and speed can be thought about as martial. When we add to it the disruptiveness of Uranus, one of the most basic things that tends to happen when these 2 planets get into hard aspects is there are sudden changes to plans. By that, I mean the expected way that things will go, or the expected way that we have of approaching a day or a work project, or the expected routines within a relationship. Suddenly, when these 2 planets get together, all bets are off for the status quo or for normalcy to be there. You will suddenly have a sense of a kind of event or an activity or even a piece of news or information or something that's said, or again something that just happens by matter of chance or circumstance, it would seem, that suddenly changes and disrupts the status quo, the plans, the expectations. It can very quickly sever your attachment to something too, where that could be very liberating, saying, we have to go and do this thing. And then suddenly you go, I don't want to. I'm not going to do that. So the disruption can be self-oriented. You can decide you're just not going to do something anymore, or you can decide you want to do something in a completely different way. So that kind of disruptive, unexpected shift, change, or shakeup is very Uranian. It gets just a little bit more intense and fast and quick and sudden when Mars is involved. This is why people tend to fear this transit as well, because it can be a very destabilizing kind of experience, but it also be very thrilling. I'm going to talk more about some of the creative dynamics of this transit, but thrilling would be another fair way of describing it. It doesn't just have to be something so abrupt and disruptive that it's deregulating or destabilizing. It can be, but it can also be something you're choosing and you're very excited about, but it still represents some kind of break from normalcy or from the routine. So this is textbook Mars Uranus, right? Everyone who listens to this probably knows this already, but it is worth repeating that this week could feature a lot of those kinds of dynamics. What about impatience and reactive decision making? A reactive choice to me is not always a bad one. I know that in our meditative, kind of contemplative mindset, which many of us listening to this probably are trying to cultivate, that thoughtfulness, discernment, care, non-reactivity are values, and for good reason. And this could be a transit that pushes us to work the muscles of those kinds of practices. Be patient, don't be impatient. Be thoughtful and discerning, don't be reactive. Because these two planets, when they come together, can have us sort of trigger happy metaphorically. However, there is also a way in which, the sudden, quick reaction, I got to do something and I've got to do it now, can be really helpful with this kind of energy, especially if you're someone who tends to be anxious or hesitant or maybe self-conscious, and you have a hard time making quick, fast, bold, decisive choices. Maybe there's insecurity, or maybe there's a fear of being judged, or maybe there's just just anxiety. It's a lot of stress to make a big choice that's being done in the name of myself and my desires or my drives or my own internal motivation. It's like, well, how polite is that, or how will that make other people feel? Sometimes we work our social calculus to the point of really taking away our ability to act spontaneously and creatively through our own willpower. It's like, just act, just do it, just be it, just go for it. So this combination, I want to stand up for in terms of the ability that it has to help people break out of stuck, stagnant, overly calculated, concerned, anxious, kind of a restrictiveness around making strong or bold decisions. You can just break right through that with a Mars-Uranus dynamic. At the same time, you will notice that in an argument or in a more intense situation that has to be managed with care, there are going to be people who, the image that just came into my head is, if you've ever been in the midst of a move, and you know how exhausting it is, you're carrying things in and out. Maybe you've got movers, but if you're doing your own move, I remember doing this many times when I lived in New York City. It felt like I was changing apartments every 6 months or something. You're moving from one place to another. You're lifting your stuff. It's awkward. It's weird angles. It's there's not like an easy way to grab certain pieces of furniture, and you're struggling with it. And then you just get to this point where you're trying to get around a corner, and rather than like taking the time, you just go, wah! You just like try to jam it through, and then like you scuff the piece of furniture, you chip a part off. The door frame on your first day is already dinged up. You're gonna have to pay for it later. And it all happened because in that moment you were frustrated, you were tired, you've been lifting stuff, and you thought, well, maybe if I just jam my way through this, I'll break through the frustration I'm feeling. Very Mars-Uranus. So you have to be careful that we don't act so strongly and assertively out of impatience or reactivity that we break something or make things more painful or difficult for ourselves than we need to. Number 3 are ego clashes and power struggles. Now this, to me, is particularly resonant with the Mars in Leo. Mars in Leo is in the Sun sign, and there is a lot of pride and a sense of personal sovereignty or dignity or creative agency that Mars in Leo takes very seriously. And so one thing that comes up for me is the clash with authority figures, because Mars in Leo can represent people with authority or in authority, like the general of an army or a president or something like that. So a CEO, a boss, a leader, even a man or woman, to me doesn't really matter so much, right? But you get the idea. It's anyone in a position of authority that is maybe demonstrating their use of authority in ways that are impatient, rash, impulsive, domineering, overwhelming. The sudden acts of ego by people that kind of represent Mars and Leo. Someone takes offense to something, they act way out of line because they got offended or they felt like their dignity was being called into question. So just the potential for ego clashes, power struggles, resistance or defiance to authority figures. These are all very classic Mars-Uranus dynamics, but all the more so when Mars is in the sign of Leo. However, at the same time, I will say that Mars in Leo can also represent the healthy pride, the healthy sense of dignity, the healthy sense of self-love. I am a unique being with a creative will that participates in the creation of the cosmos itself. It can get, I think, it can get pretty epic in the sign of Leo, where we need to feel like our creative energy matters. And its expression in taking risks or putting ourselves out there, asserting ourselves. With this combination, maybe it's not just about ego. Maybe it's about not being afraid to show yourself, be yourself, assert yourself, and a kind of sudden breakthrough with respect to self-expression or pride and dignity can also be maybe a good thing here. Number 4 would be that these two planets love to kind of pound the drum on like, be authentic, take risks, experiment, liberate yourself from stuck energies or oppressive people or oppressive structures. This really is the revolutionary beat this is the beat of the revolutionary drum. Now, is it a war drum, or is it a creative drum, or is it a ideological drum or a relational drum? Are you standing up for yourself in a relationship? Are you standing up for something you believe in philosophically? Or are you acting with a sudden burst of creative energy? Are you liberating yourself from some kind of stuckness in any area of life? Or you know, are you like having to fight, literally fight something, an oppressive person or something? These are the kinds of questions that will be different, you know, from person to person. It's going to express so differently. But there is a call when these two planets get together to do something that constitutes authenticity. It's as though if I don't do this, or if I don't act a certain way, or if I don't meet a certain challenge, then I will not be expressing something that is in my true nature to express, as though we're being tested. Are you going to fold or crumble under pressure, or hide yourself, or are you just going to show the world something authentic? And sometimes that's not even something we do as much as it is a shift that we make internally in our self-perception and in why we're doing something or how we're going to do something. Like, well, I've been doing this, but now I'm going to show up when I do it. You know, I'm going to own this. Even that internal sense of like, no, I'm going to be present for this. That can be a revolution that doesn't even necessarily show itself in the outside world. You're still doing the exact same things, but somehow you've liberated yourself from the feeling of ought, should, and duty, and you've just decided to show up. I think we have to be so thoughtful about how we notice or observe this taking place. Sometimes we get caught up in the literal external dimensions, or so to speak, rather than seeing some of these shifts psychologically and on the level of just how our consciousness is changing one day to the next. Number 5 would be physical or bodily tensions or breakthroughs. Now, Mars-Uranus, we have to say, is associated with the potential for physical accidents, usually through pushing boundaries or barriers too far. For example, as someone who you know, is into weightlifting, I'm going to be super careful not ego lifting around these transits, right? Because the energy might be there to do so, but so too might the tweaked muscle, or you know, a setback. You know, that you think, well, I'm going to push through something, but then you twist your ankle and you're set back for 3 weeks or something. So care and mindfulness of excessive energy that's coming through is really important. This is, don't drive too fast. Don't be impatient on the road, because it's a fender bender waiting to happen. Last year, I remember Mars and Uranus came together in Taurus in about the middle of July, I think it was. And it was right around my birthday. And that dynamic played out in terms of I fell down the stairs. And thankfully, I wasn't hurt. And then we had a tree that almost fell on our house. And it was pretty wild. It was right on my ascendant, of course, a little bit more of a dynamic place in my chart. But one of the things I remember from that was just, okay, I got to slow down, because I was just kind of speeding through things with a sense of urgency that was kind of coming over me unconsciously. So I learned a lot from that. And sometimes you can't even control these things. I'll never forget, there was a Mars-Uranus dynamic a couple of years ago, and I was at a baseball game, and the batter accidentally let go of his bat, and it flew into the crowd. And as I was walking back from the bathroom, it smashed into a wall, like not even 5 feet in front of me, just smashed right into the wall. And I was like, holy cow. That was another Mars-Uranus moment. And I do feel like it's very rare that I hear like horror stories with Mars-Uranus, but I've heard enough sort of sudden physical owies that I'm cautious around it. I always tell people to just be a little bit careful. At the same time, I want to emphasize the fact that I'm going to talk out both sides of my mouth right now, because the other thing is that a lot of people who do things like surfing or skiing or any kinds of extreme sports where there's an element of sort of daredevil theatrics or risk taking, will find that these transits are often linked with amazing breakthrough performances. Breakthrough performances, record-setting performances, amazing displays of athleticism, very Mars-Uranus. Taking meaningful risks, pushing yourself, but being thoughtful, careful, is, I think, a tension that we can hold with this, where we shouldn't just be totally afraid of it. We should also sort of ride some of the momentum. It's like, what was that Metallica album, Ride the Lightning? Kind of like that. You should be listening to Metallica is what I'm trying to tell you. Anyhow, that's it. That's what I have for you today. Now, remember, what we're going to be doing as the week goes on, Mars-Uranus, these kinds of themes, building. Then we're going to talk about Jupiter and Saturn meeting. Their square is historic. We need to understand the previous squares that came before it, the opening of the cycle with the conjunction. And we need to understand the significations of Jupiter and Saturn and know what we're looking at, because that's coming through major transit at the end of the week. Then what we're going to do is try to sort of contextualize what might it mean that we have this major Jupiter-Saturn square happening, perfecting at the same time that Mars and Uranus are squaring as well. So that will be part of our task this week. The other thing that is happening, which we are going to be looking at tomorrow, is the full moon in Sagittarius. So that full moon in Sagittarius tomorrow will be our topic of discussion, and I hope that we'll give you some good things to work with there as well. All right, after I sign off, there's an informational video about the Year 1 program coming up. It begins June 22nd. We're almost there. Enrollment is almost over. It is time to register if you haven't yet. Be sure to check out the need-based tuition option if that's going to help you take the course. We're very glad for you to use it. Yeah, we'll see you again tomorrow. Bye, everyone. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking around. I'm excited to tell you about our upcoming program, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic. It is our first-year course in Hellenistic astrology that begins at the end of June. June 22nd is our starting date. I'm going to take you over to the course page to tell you more about the program and what you will learn while you are in it. So here we go over to the Nightlight Astrology website. You can find this at nightlightastrology.com. Click on the courses tab, go to the first year course. Now, this program is ideal for people who maybe have a little bit of background already in astrology. Maybe you've done some studying on your own independently, taken some courses or webinars and workshops, but you're looking to deepen your understanding of astrology. And maybe Hellenistic astrology in particular has been calling to you. I'll tell you more about what Hellenistic astrology is in a minute, but on the first year course page, you're going to find everything that the course includes. I want to make the structure of the course clear first, and then at the end, I'm going to tell you 5 reasons that I think anyone might have for studying astrology, and you can see if you check any of those boxes. First of all, there are 30 classes on the year. It's just a little under a year-long program with 30 webinars. Every webinar is 2 to 3 hours long, including a lively Q&A and conversational section after we finished our lesson for the day. Each of those lessons I lead personally through live webinars, so you can attend those live. If you want to follow along at your own pace in your own time, on your own schedule, you can always look at the recordings and take those in. And I'm going to show you what the class page looks like so you can see how you can interact with the course as uniquely and creatively as you want to. But you can either attend the live webinars or listen to the recordings or audio or video. In between major units of study within those 30 classes, we have separate classes outside of the 30 classes that are essentially tutoring sessions led by our staff, our course directors. We have 3 of them for our first year program, 3 tutors that help me guide every single class you're in and lead study sessions, and are also staffing an interactive group forum discussion where you can ask questions, look at charts, practice what you're learning with all of your classmates and with tutors there to help you. They'll always answer questions within a business day. So it's a really well-staffed, well-structured program. In between those major units of study and the breakout sessions, we also have guest speakers that come in throughout the year that you get free access to. The recordings are archived for you in your class folders. So you're getting people within our curriculum. And you're also getting to visit with some astrologers who are outside of the Nightlight School, but we really admire their work, and so we bring them in. You also have a ton of bonus material. With every lesson, we have recommended quizzes, study guides, optional reading. And that allows people who are really, really, intense, deep, like studious types to go as far as you want to with the material, while other people who are maybe, content to take things in at, just kind of taking in the classes, that's there for you too. So you can kind of go as deeply as you want to. The class, as the year goes on, goes through major units of study in ancient Hellenistic astrology. So if you're not familiar with ancient Hellenistic astrology, this is the earliest form of horoscopic astrology. This is where the astrology that you've probably learned today comes from originally. And that makes some of its features unique. Like, for example, ancient astrologers utilized whole sign houses. We study why they used whole sign houses, how they used them, and we study the why behind really everything: houses, signs, planets, aspects, dignities, essential and accidental dignities, delineation approaches. How do you read and predict within a natal chart? All of those theoretical areas of astrology we not only learn how to do, but we learn the why behind it. And this is what I think people find most empowering about the course, is that ancient astrology really helps to give you the rationale for everything so that you have the insight available to go off script. What I mean by that is, like, let's say you're learning about a sign, Aries or Taurus or a Gemini, something like that. Ancient astrology won't just give you a list of the adjectives or keywords or descriptions of, say, a sign or a planet. It will give you an underlying philosophical explanation that then allows you to extrapolate from it the kinds of lists that you read in textbooks, which means you'll have an understanding of why everything on a list in a textbook is there in the first place. And you'll also have the insight and creativity available to add things to the list that are a part of your own unique intuition and contribution to astrology. And this is what ancient astrologers wanted students of astrology to learn: the why behind everything. So this is a class where, even though you're seeing things like planet signs, houses, dignities, aspects, and you're like, oh, I've already learned about those things. Not if you haven't studied Hellenistic astrology. I don't mean to sound condescending, but like, truly, most people's experience coming through this program is, wow, I had no idea all that I didn't know about the roots of everything that I've understood thus far about astrology. So it really is about digging into the philosophical core of why we do everything. And then you have greater intuitive and creative capacity as an astrological craftsman or craftswoman. So anyway, that's a brief explanation of why I think Hellenistic astrology is important. Not to mention that ancient astrology was really focused on our ability to accurately describe and predict things in the realm of karma, fate, and destiny, whereas modern astrology's hallmark and strength is psychological depth. And so when you put the two together in our program, which is why it's called Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic, I think you have something really special. So on that note, you can see everything that we cover here. So there's a video with some of our alumni you can watch. Everything is there on the page. Now, there are 5 reasons that I want to touch on briefly before I tell you about your payment options and need-based tuition. These are 5 reasons to study astrology that if you mark any of these boxes, especially if you mark several of them, then I think it's a good indication that you might be ideal for this program, might be an ideal fit. So the first one is If you find that astrology has become a part of your daily, weekly, monthly, yearly spiritual practice, it is a part of how you lead an inner life, then there is nothing more empowering than deepening your connection to that language, because that puts you more in the driver's seat. It's always good to have astrologers that you rely on, teachers that you listen to, get a little objective perspective, especially when you're looking at your own chart through a reading. But there's really nothing more empowering than learning to speak the language at a deeper level for yourself. And if that calls to you, if you want to understand things and be able to speak more confidently and clearly about this sacred language that you love, and this is a great reason to take a structured program. Number two is that you feel called to read charts for people. Look, not everyone who takes our programs is on a professional track, but we have 4 years worth of professional training programs at Nightlight that will prepare you to read professionally for others if that's the path that you're on. Maybe you don't even know if you're on that path. That's fine too. Many people take our programs just for the sake of their own personal enrichment, and again, to be kind of more in the driver's seat with respect to your astrological journey. You have more of an understanding. You can be more confident in reading symbols and experiencing transits with your own understanding that you've cultivated. But sometimes people want to read for other people. This will definitely set you up to do that. We have a certification track where you can take exams at the end of every year. They're optional. You don't have to if you're not on that level of interest. Number three, you have done a lot of self-study. You've heard things from here and there, but you're looking to bring it all together. It is overwhelming to study astrology on your own. So if you want organization, structure, and coherence, what you're getting in this program is going on 15 years of training astrologers, 15 years of developing curriculum that has in mind the overwhelm that many people experience. And this program is structured year 1, year 2, year 3, however far you want to go with our curriculum, to give you an organized, structured, coherent way of understanding the history and language of astrology from both ancient times to modern times, in all of the vastness that the field includes. And also, as we go, we want to give you the confidence that you are a part now of an astrological lineage. Astrology has always been practitioner-based. Coming through Nightlight, you are going to have the opportunity to feel aligned with a lineage. If you like my work, if you feel aligned with the way I speak the language, then this might be a good reason to come study with us. Now, if you're seeking the why behind things, if you're like, yeah, that's interesting, I get it, I understand, but why? Why signs? What's the difference between a sign and a house? Why did they ever come up with a sign and a house? What's the distinction philosophically? Why does Mars represent this? Why does Mars in this sign represent that? If you are someone who feels empowered by understanding the why behind things, you are going to love this program, because that's how I am as a teacher. That's how I am as a person. And that's what this program is really all about. Number 5, you are looking for astrological community. Look, I think Nightlight is unique in terms of the kind of warmth, acceptance, safety, and inclusiveness that our community includes intellectually, spiritually. We are really pride ourselves on being a peaceful kind of family. I'm a Cancer, right? So it's kind of a family-oriented environment. So anyway, I will end it there. If you check any of those boxes, you may want to consider studying with us. Now, I'm going to take you over to 2 things. I want to show you the dashboard. So here is the Thinkific page. You're going to join this, and on your dashboard, you're going to find any courses that you've enrolled in at Nightlight, and there are many, so you may end up in being involved in multiple courses, and you'll find that they're all there on your dashboard. Click on one of them, and it will take you in. You're going to find that on the left-hand side, there's orientation instructions, course information, class links, and calendar, all the technical stuff you need to know when you join the course. And then you're going to find that when you go through the lessons, that the lesson includes the video, the audio, the slides, the transcripts, the Q&A box text if you couldn't make it live and see what people were talking about, flashcards, homework, a bonus PDF with all sorts of additional recommended reading, bonus videos, additional video links for bonus material. So every single time that you want to visit something within the course, everything is nicely organized. So you can see here, I'm going to pause this before it starts going, but you can embed the video right there. It's embedded and you can watch it. And then if you wanted to, you could also, right here, you could also download the video and watch it on your own device. And that's same for the audio as well. And then as you go, you'll see all of the lessons are laid out. The study sessions are also recorded if you can't make those live. So everything is nicely arranged on the website for you. And that makes it a course that if you wanted to take 3 years to accomplish, you could take 3 years to accomplish. If you want to take it for the sake of getting certified, you have the full year plus an additional year to take the exam. So 2 years total that we give people if you're on a professional track. But most people complete the program in a year. And a lot of people, over 50% of our students go on to our year 2 and then our year 3 and horary programs as well. Now, final thing I'm going to show you is right here. You're going to find here is the enrollment options at the bottom of the first year course page. Again, this is at nightlightastrology.com, and you're going to click on the first year course, go to the bottom. The early bird payment saves you several $100s off the cost of the course. That's available till May 15th. Early bird installment plan saves you on the installment plan, regular cost of the course. That's also only available until May 15th. And then need-based tuition. All of our programs include a need-based option where we give you a sliding scale and we say, you pick your monthly tuition number within this sliding scale, which is greatly reduced off the normal tuition price. That is for people who are on a fixed or limited income, receiving disabilities, single mom, whatever the case might be. We want to make sure that nobody's priced out of studying astrology. So you don't have to feel any shame. If that is you, if you need help, if you want to take this, but you need to make it work within a tight budget, we get it. Times are tough right now. We don't think people should be priced out of studying a sacred subject like astrology. So we've been offering need-based pricing for 15 years. Nightlight is a donation-based school. It started that way. We have a sliding scale, so it's kind of like donation. You get to choose your rate anyhow. So if that's something that will help you, please use it. Thank you for listening to this. I hope it gave you a really deep and comprehensive introduction to what the course is all about and why you might find it exciting to come study with us starting at the end of June. So any questions you have about the program as you're visiting the course, email us info@nightlightastrology.com. We'll be glad to talk about anything that you have questions about. We are here and we have a wonderful staff of people at Nightlight who will be a part of your learning experience and are all glad to help you. All right, that's it. We'll see you again later. Bye.